Hello everyone and welcome to Blaugrana Everything, and welcome back whichever platform you're listening from, as we will be talking about Barcelona's big 4-1 win away at Reale Arena against what was a tough and testing Real Sociedad. And I'm not just saying that to be like, fake humble or anything, because that win, that didn't come easily, okay? Much like the round 33 La Liga tie last season, it did not come easily, and Barcelona really did have to put their all into winning this one, even though they eventually managed to kill off the game in what felt like a comparatively short amount of time. But you know what? There are three things that are certain in this life. That's right, I just took a hard pivot and talking to you about life. And there are three things that are certain in life. Those are death, taxes, and my nephew waking up while I'm recording my podcast. No. And Xavi Ball getting a result away from home in La Liga. While Xavi has seen his side struggle to win at Camp Nou recently, it's been quite the opposite away from home, as Barca just always seem to find a way to get a result and avoid defeat whilst playing away from home. That now makes it 16 matches on the road undefeated for FC Barcelona, and have been to some of the toughest away grounds in that period. We're talking about the Madrigal, also La Ceramica, we're talking about Sanchez Pizjuan, we're talking about Santiago Bernabeu, and twice now to the Reale Arena, and on both occasions they have emerged victorious. Alright, so I'm going to quickly take you through the tactical setup of the two teams in this matchup before talking about my negatives and my positives, and then I will finally end by picking my man of the match. So that's the general format that I take with these match reviews. For those who this might be your first time tuning in, if this is your first time tuning in and you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, please do hit that like button if this is like a YouTube thing, you're watching it on YouTube. If not, you can just follow, subscribe to the podcast, and subscribe as well on YouTube. You can do that there as well. Okay, so let's go ahead now and talk about this tactical setup. So Real Sociedad set up in a 4-3-1-2 formation with the following players. They had Ramiro in goal, the back four of Elizondo, Zubeldia, Lenormand, and Munoz, with a midfield four as well of Bryce, Zubimendi, Merino, and Silva, with a front two of Takefusa Kubo and Isak, who I have to admit did very well, especially in that first half. Barca, on the other hand, set up with a what we'll call an experimental 3-2-4-1 system, which we don't know if this is what permanently Xavi is shifting to. I have in the past said that I'm expecting to see Xavi play with a 3-3-3 at the back kind of system more often. So I don't know if this will be that system or he's going to tweak it some more. But the move to 3 at the back saw Jordi Alba and Gerard Piqué get benched. Of course, we know that Sergio Busquets was suspended after his red card last week. We also got to see a first start this season, and I think also in his career, for Alejandro Balde, who I have to admit was pretty good on the night, and of course Ferran Torres returning from injury. So that's the tactical setup. I'm now going to talk about my negatives, and one thing which I will point out here, I only had one negative here, okay, and that's not like, because Barca conceded one goal. No, it's a bit more widespread than that. It's part of the reason why Barcelona conceded so many goals. First negative is just generally the shaky setup that exposed Barcelona unnecessarily. Now, later on in the game, we saw Jordi Alba come on, we saw Barca shift to a back four, and we saw them contain Real Sociedad much better. Now, of course, at that point, you could say the game was already dead, the game was already gone from Sociedad, and more importantly, Isak and Kubo were no longer on the pitch, which I think is probably more of the reason why it was easier for Barca to contain them in that second half after Jordi Alba came on. But even with all of that in mind, the way that Barcelona started this match, the way that they were set up, it did leave them very, very vulnerable, because there were so many instances where Dembele was supposed to be playing as a wing back, but I guess he just kind of forgot because he was just wanting to play as a winger so much. And also in the middle of the park, we saw Gavi as well, kind of just just not doing a good enough job in that sort of midfield role with De Jong and Pedri being that double pivot, and Gavi did sometimes just find himself lost in transition, going backwards when Barca had to defend. So there was a lot of shakiness in that Barca defense because of that setup, which the players just were not accustomed to. Okay, enough negatives. We're now going to talk positives, and my first positivo has to be the early goal that Barcelona scored. It was very, very necessary. I've just spoken about how shaky that team was, and I think it would have been even shakier if Barcelona did not get that first goal. And not only if Barca didn't get that first goal, but if Barca didn't get such an early first goal. Getting that goal, it really did help to, knock the wind not only out of the fans, but also the Sociedad players as well. And with that, Barcelona were able to establish a foothold, which later on in the second half, they finally took advantage of, because, in the back of a lot of Sociedad's players, you could see that there was that ever looming threat in their heads of, we could easily find ourselves down by a couple goals here. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And the reason why it happened is because of my next positive, which was that the substitutions on the night worked wonders. Okay, in particular, we're talking about those 3 subs who came on just about, a few minutes after the hour mark. Talking about Ansu Fati, we're talking about Raphinha in particular. Once these 2 guys came onto the pitch, we saw Dembele getting freed up a lot more, and we saw Barcelona now using both of those wings and really giving Sociedad a lot to think about. Never mind the fact that the fear factor around a player like Ansu Fati seems to be way more than, somebody like Ferran Torres, who he came on for, and he basically showed exactly why that is. I mean, that was just a wonderful. I don't think I've seen a substitute appearance that good since Messi came on. I think that was against Sevilla and scored this ridiculous goal to rescue a point for Barca. But then again, that's all in history. Present right now was that Xavi Hernandez made some very good substitutions. Raphinha and Ansu Fati were involved in all of the 3 goals Barcelona scored after they got on the pitch. Now, I don't know what more you can ask from a coach than that. So the coach should be happy. There's no more he can ask from his players as well. So that was my second positive. And my third and final positive here is, it's more, I guess you'd say, a byproduct of what Barca have done here, which is that they have continued their run of games without a loss away from home. They had been on a 15-game unbeaten streak in La Liga coming into this match, and this was a very, very difficult place to go when you're defending that kind of a streak, We saw last season just how much Sociedad really could have won that game, and this time around that was similar. But shout out here, I have to say, to Ter Stegen. He made some very big saves, especially in that first half saves, which had he not made, we don't know how this team maybe could have spiraled and shrunk away. But instead, because he kept that score at 1-1, we saw players like Fati, like Raphinha coming on. We saw players like Lewandowski doing their thing. And speaking of Lewandowski and Ter Stegen and Fati and Pedri, I have to now talk about my man of the match. Now, obviously, these names I have mentioned are players that I heavily considered. Pedri today probably had one of his most understated performances. There is a lot that Pedri was doing, which is just quite simply exactly what he was supposed to be doing. He was where he needed to be. He was making the kind of passes that he needed to make, and a lot of that, unfortunately, was going unrewarded simply because the movement in that first half in particular from Ferran Torres was not quite so sharp. You could tell that this guy missed out on preseason and, he wasn't really up to speed. But once Ansu Fati came on, we really saw that things just started to click into gear, especially when we still had Dembele, Fati and Raphinha on the pitch, because these are all players who are very good at finding spaces out wide and very good at linking up with their teammates, and that's exactly what we saw from Ansu Fati. So shout out to him as well, and like I said, Ter Stegen and Pedri. But I have to give the man of the match on this occasion to none other than that Polish goal machine, Robert Lewandowski. Look, it was the man's birthday. He hadn't yet scored a La Liga goal, so obviously he just went out there and scored a brace. Could have easily had a hat-trick or more. There was some good defending in this game, I must admit, as well, by Sociedad at some points, but eventually they just couldn't keep up, and I think Lewandowski was just ultimately, his performance encapsulated so well everything about Barca's performance on Sunday night. That's why for me, Robert Lewandowski was the man of the match. Anywho, what were your thoughts on the game? Who was your man of the match? Tell me in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. Do have a great day, and Forza Barca.